Have you ever sensed God nudging you towards something you couldn't quite yet see? Not a vague spiritual feeling, an actual move, a step, something with consequences and weight to it. And you found yourself praying, Lord, are you sure? Because I'd feel a whole lot better if I could see where this ends. Welcome to Live Call Today. I'm Pete DellaSantina, and over the next few minutes, I'd like to sit with you in Genesis 12, the very headwaters of covenant faith, with a man named Abram and his wife Sarai. The first 11 chapters tell a story that runs off the rails: creation, rebellion, a flood, Babel. By the end of chapter 11, the world is bankrupt, scattered, fractured, and deeply lost. And then, almost quietly, Genesis 12 begins. Into this fractured, bankrupt world, God's answer isn't a lightning bolt. It's a person. It's a couple. It's a family. And it's a promise. Listen to what God says to Abram. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and your name will be great and be a blessing, and all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. That last line, friends, the whole rest of the Bible is a commentary on that one sentence. Abram's around 75, Sarai's in her 60s, they're childless, and God promises them a nation. The math doesn't add up. The geography is undefined. Yet verse 4 says, so Abram left as the Lord told him, and Sarai went with him. That's why we call him a pioneer, not because he was fearless. He wasn't, not because he had all figured out. He most certainly did not, but because he stepped in faith, and she stepped with him. And notice what's inside the promise, a gift and a call. The gift is land, descendants, a name, protection. And the call is in 3 words. Be a blessing. Abram and Sarai were chosen, but they were never chosen for themselves. Chosen is vocation, not privilege. They were blessed in order to be a conduit. And that pattern runs from Genesis 12 all the way to Revelation 7, when John sees a great multitude that no one could count from every nation and tribe and people and tongue standing before the throne. That's Genesis 12:3, finally coming home. The calling for you and for me downstream of that same river. Now here's the part that makes Abraham feel human to me. He takes a step, but he also hedges. God said, leave your father's household, and Abram brings his nephew Lot along for the ride. A little insurance policy, a backup plan, just in case this whole promise thing doesn't pan out. Have you ever done that? God calls you to step out, and you take a step, but you also bring your own lot, a little something on the side, a little fallback, a little insurance, because somewhere underneath you're not entirely sure God's going to come through. Then comes the famine. There's a crisis in the promised land. And instead of consulting with God, who's carried them for 1,000 miles, what's Abraham do? He panics and heads down to Egypt. And the story gets worse before it gets better. He asks Sarai to lie about who she is to save his own skin. And she ends up in Pharaoh's household. It's a mess. It's an embarrassment. This is the father of faith, friends. Then comes my favorite 3 words in the whole chapter, verse 17. But the Lord. But the Lord intervened. But the Lord protected Sarai. But the Lord got them back on track. Abraham's faith was thin. God's covenant was thick. And when they finally get back home, do you know where Abram went first? Back to the altar. Back to the last place his faith made sense. And he called on the name of the Lord again. Walking by faith is not the absence of failure. It's the stubborn habit of coming back to the altar. Abraham isn't called the father of faith because he got it right the first time. He got it wrong plenty of times. Yet in Isaiah 41, God calls him something even more stunning than a pioneer. He calls him my friend. Not because Abraham earned it, because he kept coming back, because he kept letting grace be the ground he stood on. That's the pioneer life, a long obedience in the direction of a promise you cannot fully see, with a whole lot of grace folded into the miles between. So if you're a pastor, an elder, a ministry leader, hear me. Being in the center of God's will is not a guarantee that the road will be easy. It's a guarantee that God will be faithful. Those are very different things. And the difference between them is where most of us actually live. Our truest calling is not to have it all figured out before we move. Our truest calling is to take the next step in the direction of the promise, to keep returning to the altar when we stumble, and to trust that our faithlessness will not unmake God's faithfulness, and to remember every single week that we are blessed to be a blessing. The covenant has a calling for today. It always has. So here's a question you carry with you. Ask it personally, and then ask it with the people God's given around you, around your dinner table, your small group, your staff meeting, your elder board. What is the unknown territory God is asking us to enter together this season? The question leads to others. What familiar comfort, structure, strategy, a way of doing ministry? Is it time to leave those things behind so we can move toward the promise? And has our blessing been flowing through us to bless others, or has it somewhere along the way quietly curled into privilege? What is our truest calling? We step forward together. Abraham didn't get a map. Sarai didn't either. They got a voice. They got a promise. They got a calling. They got a God who kept showing up even when they didn't. And that's enough for the journey. It has to be. Because most days, that's what we get to. Next week on Live Call Today, Rhett Wilson picks up the thread with Moses, the Liberator, with his own set of excuses and his own encounter with God who does not let go. I hope you'll join us. Until then, friends, keep walking with Jesus. The one who's called you is faithful.